Well, good afternoon. My name is Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 27 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses and their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, 5 Cybersecurity Strategies for Small Business in 2023, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. We are recording today's presentation and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted. If you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session, Kiana Gainey. Kiana is a 20-plus year IT and cybersecurity industry veteran and has served as Chief Executive Officer for SecureTech 360, located in Springfield, Virginia, since its inception in 2010. She is also the Cyber Industry Specialist for the Virginia SBDC. Welcome, Kiana.
Thank you, Sheila, and welcome to everyone. So today we're going to dive right in into our spring. I like to call this my spring session, where we can do a little spring cleaning today. And so we'll talk about 5 cybersecurity strategies, but we'll actually go into more detail about different threats and different things that are upon us in 2023. So next slide. So we'll talk about the cybersecurity tips, and then we'll get some best practices, and then we'll open the floor for questions. And then at the end, I'll present some contact information if you want to do a deeper dive, and then also some wonderful links to be able to do some additional research or training for you and your staff. Next slide. So we talked a little bit about me, and one of the things I'm very excited about is my new role here at the Virginia SBDC. I am a small business advisor, and I can help you with some of your cybersecurity needs. And we have a wealth of information on our website, and also we'll have some upcoming training that you can stay tuned. And we also do some Facebook Lives where we'll get some tips that will be also instrumental for your small business as well. Next slide. So before we get right into the cybersecurity tips, let me take a step back. So as you may know, in 2023, a lot of globally, even as a small business leader or even as a large business owner, there has been a massive amount of data breaches. And data breaches have also led to things like ransomware, where you've seen million-dollar organizations, very large organizations who have experienced outages, have experienced some loss of data, loss of reputation that's cost them millions of dollars. And you will be surprised that a lot of the preventative things that they could have done, that even as a small business owner that we can take advantage of, these are just things of putting things in practice in your small business. Simple things like installing software updates. I know I see it every time you see like the software update that come up that says you need to put the latest software on your device or even on your operating system that you're using. One of the best practices that you can do is coming up with like a monthly or maybe even a weekly, depending on the nature of your business. And even I know as a small business owner, you may have limited staff, but making sure that you get those crucial updates are very instrumental so that you don't become a victim of things like a data breach or ransomware, or even worst case scenario, you've seen some of the data breaches have led to identity theft. It could be for yourself or for your customers. And those are things that you don't want to happen to you, even as a small business owner. So simple things that we can do is do software updates, right? If you have, depending on the technology that you're using in your organization or the operating system or any of the applications that you're using, if there's an option to be able to utilize a firewall will give you at least a first line of defense to be able to prevent some of the traffic that's coming to your organization. Another thing you can do is install things like antivirus software, and there's a plethora of them out in the marketplace. Very low cost. You can even use them for everything from your application to your mobile devices, which I highly recommend, especially since we're in a current climate where we're using a lot of applications. We're using a lot of I know I live on my phone. I use the majority of my day-to-day operations or communications with my staff, from everything from using the WhatsApp or using instant messaging. I go to my phone to check my email. So making sure that even outside of my actual computer or my laptop, that I'm also having some type of antivirus software on my mobile device. These are simple things that you can do to be able to help, keep yourself from being a victim of these breaches, these things like malware or these things like data breaches. And then also, I just talked about this a little briefly too, about securing your mobile device. Depending on if you're using an Apple, Android, not holding against whatever you want to use. They're both great products. Making sure that you understand if there is some resident security features within those devices. If you're deploying them, especially with your staff, and they're using them on a day-to-day basis, make sure that upon onboarding, that there is some form of security that is used on those devices, and there's some education around how to use that device, right? You don't want your employees to use their mobile device just like they would use their personal phone, because of the nature of the data that they're using, or the nature of data that they're reviewing, or they're using to interact with your customers or even your clients, depending on nature of your business. And then also, I know I've seen it a few times. You see the reminder to update or to do backups on your devices or even some of your applications. Making sure that you're regularly doing that will also help prevent some of these attacks from happening, or also if they do happen, how to recover, right? So making sure that you're documenting all of your procedures. So I always say, even as a small business owner, it's very crucial that you have a list of all of your applications, programs, software, devices, who's using what. I always use the who, what, when, and how. And making sure that those things are documented and somewhere that you can get to easily. As though we're in a climate where most people are either working remote or they're traveling using their devices. You want to have an understanding of what is being used in your organization and have something that's documented that you can get to regularly. And then also, and I think I talked about this a little bit as well, just simple things that you can document and put into place. Like there's a number of phishing attacks that are happening, and it's just people are using different techniques to be able to get to your data, to steal your information, or even just to disrupt you. And it may not even be necessarily what your organization is doing as far as business, but it could be all the partner organizations that you are either tied to, or that you have some information that they want. So for instance, if you are processing credit cards, it may not necessarily be that they want your information or your credit card information. They may just want the customers that are using either like maybe a MasterCard or different type of credit cards. And it could be something that they're trying to get, right? The hacker or the one that wants to cause the disturbance always has a bigger picture on why they want your data. So even though you may think, I'm a small business owner, I own a bakery. What would they want with my information? You'll be surprised if that bakery is taking credit cards, or if that bakery is connected to something else. They may want that information, right? So there's simple things that you can do as a small business owner to protect yourself. So things that you can document as well. Just a component. I just believe in this, making sure that your employees are aware, creating a security awareness training upon when they're hired, and then also putting into practice as a part of your culture. So making sure that that you're speaking about this in your weekly staff meetings or quarterly meetings, or whenever you're meeting with your staff. Even in my organization, I have reminders everywhere, posters, I have different things that I'm always trying to re-engage or just keep the conversation going about what are the best practices for cybersecurity and how we can protect ourselves. One of the biggest threats is on email. Most organizations use some form of email. That's why the phishing attack is one of the most popular ones. So there's simple things you can do. Never click on suspicious links. If you receive a link that seems unfamiliar via email, just simple. It may seem as simple, but don't click it. And then it may be that the email may look as though it's from someone or a trusted source. Make sure that you examine your email very carefully. Make sure that there's no misspelled words. Maybe there may be something that may be just a little off. Maybe the graphic doesn't look looks similar, but doesn't look just like you're used to seeing it. Don't click it. Make sure you verify. Even though I'm in the technology and cybersecurity space, I also believe in some what I like to call old school practices. If it's something that is requesting some vital information or information that seems like just out of left field, like all of a sudden one of your customers is asking for something that they've never asked for before, pick up the phone. Simple things. Pick up the phone, call, verify. Hey, did you just send me an email? The email stated it needed something right now. Usually things where it's very time sensitive and there's a sense of urgency. You need to move on this right now. Or if you don't do this, your system's going to be hacked or you're going to be locked out. Or one of the ones I see all the time, even from Outlook. Oh, your password has been compromised, or you need to change your password. And I look at the email very carefully, and it's always spot on. You will find some type of misspelled word, a graphic that doesn't belong there. And if you know that you just changed your password, and all of a sudden they're saying you to change your password right now. If it seems weird, if it seems suspicious, then maybe that it is. And then beware of threats. Like phishers benefit from enticing you to click on a link to enter your login credentials. There's always, like I said, there's always a sense of urgency. The email may urge you to verify some information within a certain time frame, or you'll be permanently locked, or they'll delete your account. These are all red flags, right? Again, I talked a little bit about looking out for bad grammar. Some things will have contain known spelling and grammatical errors. Unlike large companies, they imitate. Phishers don't have a staff of writers or editors, so a lot of times they don't have the sophistication to be able to make sure that they're doing something as simple as spell check, right? Which is you have enough. You can hack me and you want my information, but you don't even take the time to even have good grammar. Examine the email closely. Make sure that there's nothing suspicious. Make sure that it is not requesting information that that you shouldn't be giving out. And that's where the education piece for your employees is very important. You'll find that a lot of times, no matter where the organization, even the bigger organization, it was someone left the laptop, or someone gave our information over the phone, or they had outdated software. So when they go back and do the investigations, it was these simple things that we're covering today. They didn't have the latest software. They wasn't using strong passwords. They wasn't backing up their data. They wasn't using any antivirus. They didn't have things in place like a firewall. They wasn't securing their mobile devices. They didn't really have any policies or procedures. When they talked to some of their staff members, they wasn't aware of some of the policies and procedures. So these are all things that we, even regardless of the size, that you can implement each and every for your organization, regardless of the size. Next slide. So again, I kind of dove right into this. 5 cybersecurity practices that you can follow regardless of your size. You can train all your employees on best practices, and we talked a little bit about some of those best practices. I am a component of role-based control, access controls, and what that means is that if you are in HR and you're responsible for all of the human resources in your department, your access to certain applications or devices within your organization should be very different from someone who is processing, let's say, payroll. and payroll has a separate, it's separate. They have a different role in your organization. So each of those roles should have a very specific role to what the work that they're performing. That just keeps out of any insider threats or any issues within the organizations, right? So you can notice if something happens, let's say that seems very strange within your organization, you can almost pinpoint who, what, when, and how, that we talked about earlier, put into some of those role-based access controls, right? And then if you're not a type that want to click on or put something in place where you are updating your software regularly, if there is a feature on your application or program that you're using that you can initiate maybe an automated way to do your patching, it's two sides of that. I believe in it, everything should be done in a controlled basis, because you can implement something and you want to make sure that that patch or update doesn't affect something else. So making sure you have a plan of action. So if you are doing something that's automated, that you have some type of incident response or disaster recovery plan in place as well. We talked about documenting earlier. And what that simply means that if there is an incident or there is some type of disaster recovery that you have to implement, that you have that documented, you have someone that is responsible for who, what, when, and how. You have someone that's running the point to make sure that this person is contacting whoever needs to be contacted in the event of an emergency or if an incident is happening. One of the other things that you're seeing that's being widely adopted is multi-factor authentication. And what that simply is just another form to really authenticate that the person that's trying to access the application, device, program, email is exactly that person. You usually will get a code of some sort, that code will come to something that you've already supplied, like a phone number or even an email address, and you'll put that code, and then that will authenticate that you are the person that is trying to access the application or program. That is another way that a great security practice that can help prevent some of these things that we talked about, some of these data breaches, the malware attacks, the phishing attacks. That's another way that you can put something in place to be able to prevent some of that. And then only using secure Wi-Fi networks. I know it's sometimes you're busy, you're popping into like a Starbucks and you're using their Wi-Fi. Although it's free and it's easy, just make sure that if you have a way to use another form of another way to be able to use a secure Wi-Fi, if it's available, use that. I'm not a fan of anything that's just open up to the public, because that means it's open up to everyone, right? I always use the same concept with my home. I wouldn't give keys to everyone to my home. I only give keys to my home to people that I trust, right? And then there may be some other levels of security that I may put in my home, so that even though I may trust you, I may not trust you to go into every part of my house. So if you are someone that I trust, let's say you're an electrician and you're coming in, you're doing a job, you should only have access to the device that you are servicing. You shouldn't have access to my entire home. So if I saw you in a room that didn't have a stove in it, that seems like that would be very suspicious. So it's the same type of concept, the same type of things that we do in our everyday lives. Cybersecurity is just another way to apply those different practices and procedures, making sure that we keep in our information safe, our clients, and even our customers, and even our own employees safe at all times. Next slide. So I know I kind of went over a lot and just in my spring cleaning 5 steps to a better, just to get a better understanding of the current climate that we're facing. But as we are rapidly expanding in technology and we are widely adopting everything from what I like to call the Internet of Things, which is like everything is a computer, from your refrigerator now to some of your medical devices. We have cars that are smart. We have devices. We're using everything from Alexa to Siri, no judgment, depending on which one you choose. They're all great technologies. As these things are being widely adopted and used within our organizations or even at our homes. There are just things that we can do to help prevent some things from happening to us so that we don't become victim to some of these larger organizations that have millions of dollars in legal fees, and they have millions of dollars with different types of insurances that can help protect them. As small business owners, sometimes we only have, I know as a small business owner, I can speak for myself, I have a very limited budget. So everything that I do, I have to make sure that I'm doing it that's economical, but also that they're still providing a level of protection for myself and for my clients. So any questions? I know I went over kind of a mouthful.
So we have one question. The question is, how can a VPN on a mobile device protect from risk?
Very good, very great question. So a VPN stands for a virtual private network, and just the name itself, it provides you with your own virtual private network, which provides you with your own level of security within itself. So for example, if you want to have communication with someone and you don't want someone from the outside or anyone that can be easily hacked that connection or that session, the virtual private network provides you with a level of security. So just like we talked about using different like antivirus software or backing up your data or using things like multi-factor authentication, using things like a firewall, using things like a virtual private network is also another way to be able to give yourself some, like I call it defense in depth, give yourself some more tools in your toolbox to be able to help reduce the amount of risk or threats to your environment. So it's definitely, I would definitely recommend it. There's some great products out there on the market. I always say, even with all products, when you implement or you add an additional device or application into your environment, make sure you're doing your research, make sure you're doing your due diligence, read the privacy policies, read the fine print. I am a component, even like now, even before I go out to a restaurant, I look at the reviews, I look to see what people are saying about it. It's the same type of concept when you're purchasing or you're adding new technologies into your environment.
Okay, next question. Do you need a VPN if you're running on a SharePoint cloud?
So again, I have seen some people still use virtual private networks depending on the nature of their business. And then I've seen people who doesn't use it as well, right? So it's really based on you as the small business owner. Like I said, anything that I'm implementing to my environment, it'll be no different if you decided to add a new lock system to your physical security, right? I'm sure you did your research, you looked at the pros and cons. There's ways that you can use like a regular key or you can use a keypad. So there's so many different ways or different methods that you can use, but with anything, I'm just saying for yourself and your own protection, make sure that you have knowledge about the technology that you're implementing or that you're introducing to your environment. Because as you introduce new things, you also introduce new risks. So make sure that you are educated on those products and services before you implement them into your environment.
You mentioned antivirus software. Are there any antivirus packages for Macs that you recommend? So
there's a lot of great products that's on the marketplace. Some of the most popular ones I've seen with folks using that they are mostly a Mac house. Norton is one, but like I said, there's a lot. So do your research. I know sometimes it comes down to cost, right? So I always say, look at the cost benefit analysis. If you have maybe 5 devices and you can spend $150 for something versus if you have 100 devices and you only have a budget of, $200, right? Look at your budget, talk to your stakeholders, talk to your leadership, and make a decision that will benefit your organization. Do your research, read the fine print. There's always some type of privacy policies that go along with any technology. And then make sure that you are protecting yourselves. Even if you say, okay, I have a small budget and I only can protect 5 devices right now. I always say pick the most crucial and critical devices and applications and make sure you secure those. And as your budget changes, if you have more budget and you can expand, do that as well. But I'd rather you do something than just say, I can't afford anything, right? So always say, look at your costs, because I understand as a small business owner, everything boils down to costs, right? But do a cost benefit analysis, look at the product, make sure that it's going to give you the level of protection that you need for your small business. You may not need, I always say, like, you go somewhere and they're always trying to sell you like an upgrade. And you're like, no, I only need this portion of it, right? So you know more about your business and what you can afford and what you need to secure your devices and secure your applications and your employees and your customer data. So do your research, but also I'd rather you do something versus just saying, I don't have anything, I can't afford it, I'm not doing it. You want to have some level of protection to protect you and your organization.
Right. So do we have any other questions? This has been great information.
So there is some links, and we'll supply the PowerPoint. There are some great resources out there, and you'll be surprised. A lot of cybersecurity has really taken the forefront, and there are a lot of information out there. There are a lot of different resources that are either, I don't like to say the word free, but complimentary or for a very low cost. Because even though we're a small business, we're part of a larger ecosystem. So a lot of organizations have put together a lot of templates, resources, tools that you can use, that you can try out for your small business. I've listed a few here. There's a wealth of information out there. As you're doing your spring cleaning, look at your devices, look at your policies and your procedures, schedule some time to talk to your employees, and do that cost benefit analysis, right? See if there's ways that you can protect yourself either at a low cost or using some of these resources just to get started. But I'd rather you do something versus just saying, I can't afford it. It's not something that, I only do this. So why it's not a threat to me. We're all can be affected at some point dealing with these sophisticated hackers and these groups that are targeting not only the larger organizations anymore, they're targeting small businesses, right? So do your due diligence to be able to protect yourselves. The fact that you took the time today to come and just educate yourself, I applaud you for that. That's the step one. And then there's a lot of information that we have on our website. We have some upcoming webinars where we'll do some deeper dives into other topics. So stay tuned for that. And as always, take a look at all these resources and come up with some type of policies, procedures, security plan, disaster recovery plan, incident response plan for your organization. These are things that you can do. I always say you want to be preventative versus being reactive.
Well, great. We don't have any more questions, so I guess I will close us out. Kiana, thank you. This is wonderful, as always. And I would like to thank everyone for attending today. There will be an email coming with a link to the recording and to the slides. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. This webinar and other SBDC resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. We do hope to see you at our next session. Take care.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.